Music is very interesting because, especially when you talk about rap music. Luther Campbell, in his book, he talked about how cats from New York and from the East Coast and West Coast look down on the Miami sound. Yeah. And his deal is because they didn't understand it. Here you have this record label in Houston. And again, when it comes to rap, East Coast believe they're supreme. Mm-hmm. After NWA, West Coast believe they were supreme. How did you navigate that by saying, no, we have something different that's down here, and we can still compete with what y'all do?
That took place actually in New York when I went and spent a couple weeks in New York, because prior to that I was like so busy, like hustling and kind of looking at everything from a distance. But that trip in New York, when I went to New York, because we moved Rap-A-Lot to New York for like a half a year, I went down a couple of weeks, had opportunity to go in the Def Jam office because I knew Leo Cohen, and he showed me checks that they was having, big checks from Run DMC, Houdini. And after sitting around observing everything, I realized that the artist I had at the time was trying to follow the East Coast sound. And, it was then I went back home from the New York office and said, we moving back home. I said, y'all trying to imitate.
So you moved from Houston there thinking that's the place to be.
Yeah.
And then you're like a fish out of water, and you said, wait a minute, we got something special down here.
Right.
So you return back to your roots.
Yeah, I allowed the guy who I had running my company and the artist to move there. And after I came out of that closet, I got a new mind frame. So I took a trip out there with them. And it was there, it didn't take me long. I said, let's move back, and we're going to do this my way, this last piece of money I have. And that's when I lost about 4 or 5 groups because they was like, man, you too deep. You know what I mean? Because I wrote down stories. I said, y'all trying to write about something that I was successful with. Make this rhyme for me. I don't know how to write a rhyme, but I know the story. Make this rhyme. And they told me, they said, man, you too deep. So I got rid of all of them. And that's when I found 3 members that wanted to hear me, listen to me, and the rest was history.
Now, some people would have said, you have lost your mind.
They did.
You are crazy.
Yeah, they told me that in their own way. Yeah, they said that.
And so, when you talk about your story, that's interesting because same thing with sort of NWA. Eazy-E wasn't a rapper. He was like, this ain't what I do. But he understood the story.
Yeah.
He understood that if you're going to communicate it, and then that's what, of course, then that led to the partnership there with NWA. And so it's interesting that you transferring your experiences to these 3 individuals, mm-hmm. and then their stories also then began to get infused in. Typically, when it comes to music, it's from the person. It's not driven by the person whose company it is. Right. It's really driven by the artists,
right, and
their experiences.
Right. Well, I tell everybody I was a ghetto boy all the time. I was a Ford member, and a lot of people felt my presence on the intros because I always spoke before the album started, and that's what birthed a whole nother movement outside of what we were doing. But I always wrote, in the background. Didn't want to take credit for it, but I was involved.
And so, Ghetto Boys comes on the scene. Totally different sound. And folks receive it much differently. And again, you carve out your own unique sound, your own space in this world where it really was East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we had to do that against all odds because at the time, East Coast guys was monopolizing our radio stations, the clubs, and everything in Houston. So, I had to make a believe out of them because they didn't want to, they felt like we was too country. They didn't like our accents. They made fun of everything we was trying to do. So I had to create a situation to discourage those guys and say, man, y'all got to give us a chance. In our city, y'all can't be here.
So what does that actually mean?
I had to get creative, you know what I mean?
So you had to reflect on old days,
yeah,
to remind support.
I can't lie. I mean, I had to mix it up because I understood.
You had to have a few special conversations.
A remix. Yeah, I had to do a remix.
Always, you had one of those black, look here.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody black say, look here,
yeah.
it's a whole different thing that's about to come out.
Right. I named it courtesy call. You know. Yeah.
So you made a number of those courtesy calls.
Yeah. I mean, I had to, because without that being done, it's just like,
You've been frozen out.
yeah, we don't care. We don't care you from the South. We're not gonna play you. We're not gonna give you a shot, and that's just the way it is.
But isn't it crazy that, okay, first of all, you're talking about establishments that are in Houston.
Yeah.
People who live here, who live in Houston, who work in Houston. And then they're saying, you country.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I mean, when I was working here in Dallas, I was working at a radio station, and there was a guy who was from the Midwest. And everything about radio and television always was, you know, the Midwest sound, the Midwest sound. And he told me, he said, well, you have a slight twang. I said, are we not in Dallas? I said, I'm like, your ass ain't from here. Right. You from Wisconsin. Yeah. I'm from Houston. I said, I sound like where we live. Yeah. And he was bothered by that. And I was looking at him going, you do know you are working in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Right.
I sound like I'm from Texas because I'm from Texas.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing.
Oh, no, it's real. I mean, they discriminated against that heavily to the extent where we got booed. New York used to boo the Ghetto Boys when we go and perform there in the beginning. So, you know, it was a whole lot went on where that was concerned, just the way we speak. And now, as you can see, you know, I tell everybody, you know, New York, to me, a piece of bread, the West Coast, a piece of bread, and the South, we the meat. You know what I mean? We got the game in a headlock now.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Legal marijuana has grown to become a $9 billion industry in roughly 6 years. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate made their business very simple. They buy land that supports legal marijuana operations and lease it to high-paying tenants. So you are investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm. You can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000. But you can't wait. This crowdfunding opportunity is only available for a few more days. Go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game, folks. Do it now before time runs out. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.